L is for the way you look at me. O is for the only one I see. V is very, very extra.
All right. I love the fact that a lot of the girls are like, oh yeah, and all the guys are like, oh. Nice. All right. Now, guys and ladies, we are going to be doing a 3-part series called Love Song. And before we get started in it, I would like to kind of open up with this little caveat. Okay? This little message before the sermon. For those of you who don't know what caveat is, I looked it up for you. Okay. Anyway, thank you. I would like to point out that just because I'm doing a dating series, a marriage series, a purity series, and all that, I don't want you to think that that makes dating like the ultimate goal, or getting married. Like once you're married, you've reached the pinnacle of your life. I don't bring it up like that, because a lot of times I think it's like, oh, your life's, it's just, you're working towards that husband, that wife, and no, for anyone who's ever been married, life that is not the pinnacle, that is the beginning of a much longer, great, glorious road. But I'm bringing it up because not everyone's going to get married. And I'm not saying that if you didn't, that, wow, God's will is messed up for you. No, I just want you to know that most of you in here, if not all of you, are probably going to date at some point in time. And a good number of people, I'm about to say, what's up there? A good number of people are going to get married in here. And so why don't we talk about it? And if not, you're going to at least know someone who is. And so that's the reason we're covering this, because it's an important subject. Now, we're going to be doing some fairly open talk. And so to kick it off before we get kind of into the minutia of it, I have some cheesy pickup lines that I would like to get out there. Now, I would like to start off with this. First off, pickup lines don't work. They don't work. They just make you feel good about yourself. So I got Sarah. All right. Sorry, Sarah. All right. So here we go. And pickup lines, I want you to know, they're for everybody. There's a pickup line for every type of person. Like if you're a hungry person, here's what you do. You walk up and say, if you were a potato, you'd be a sweet one. All right? Yeah. Middle note, guys. If you're a money-conscious person, here's one for you. If I received a nickel for every time I saw someone as beautiful as you, I'd have 5 cents. There you go. Hold on. 5 cents, one person. Okay, anyway, moving on. Nerdy person. Is your name Wi-Fi? Because I'm really feeling a connection. Okay. Math person. Okay. I want our love to be like pi, irrational and never-ending. Yeah, if you don't get it, you're not a math person. That's okay. All right. Forgetful person. You're so beautiful, you make me forget my pickup line. There you go. Enough said. All right. Historical person. I'm learning about important dates in history. Want to be one of them? Yeah, play on word with date. Okay. All right. Persistent person. Do you believe in love at first sight? Or do I have to walk by again?
I think that one too.
I don't know if this is something you need to be admitting. All right, let's see if you use this one. The spiritual person, okay? Spiritual person. So last night I was reading the book of Numbers and I realized I didn't have yours. All right, and for the last one here, coffee addict. For all you coffee addicts out there. Want to get some coffee? Because I like you a latte. Yeah, there you go. Okay. So we're going to be doing this 3-part series. The first part is on faithful attraction, and we're going to be looking at the book of Song of Songs or Song of Solomon. If you've never read the book, it's a pretty scantily clad letter. I mean, it is. It is very in your face. It is very open, and we're going to be talking about it. Now, you're high schoolers, so we're going to be talking a little more frank about what the book of Song of Solomon is talking about. Oh, joy and rapture. This week we're talking about faithful attraction. Next week we're going to be talking about purity. We're going to be talking about restoration. And the one thing I want to go ahead and plant in your heads about that is that purity is something that doesn't end at marriage, because a lot of people tie purity and sex together. Obviously, when you get married, you're supposed to continue to be pure. So we're going to talk about that. And some of y'all give me those faces. Just prepare your heart. All right. And then the third part of it is reconciling differences within relationships. And if you've ever been in a relationship, if you've ever been dating, or if you at some point in time you get married, there are differences that happen. There are arguments. There are times that you disagree. And it's important to know how to handle the situations. So that's the three things we're going to cover with this, okay? So today, we're starting with the faithful attraction. Now, the one I put up said how to date. That's not what I meant. I put the wrong one up. Faithful attraction. So what am I talking about? Okay? We're going to be looking at the first part of the book Song of Songs. And it's basically a love note between Solomon, King Solomon, who's King David's son, Solomon. Okay, so it's his son and the Shulamite, now maybe saying the wrong, Shulamite woman. Okay, so we're going to be looking at their relationship and looking at how that applies to relationships in general. Okay, there's going to be a lot of explaining because there's a lot of weird pickup lines used in here. All right, so the one thing I want us to know before we step into this, I'm not going to be covering like rules about dating. I'm not going to be covering, oh, you know what, you should have a curfew. You should make sure to go on group dates. You should make sure to not be in a room alone together. All those are really great things I would advise you to do. But we're not covering that. What we're going to be covering is the main thing about dating is that dating leads towards marriage. That's the purpose of dating, is to build, is this person going to be a spouse or not? Whenever you figure that out, then you either step away or you keep going forward. And some of you are looking really concerned right now. I'm not saying that it's tomorrow, but every dating relationship is building towards that. So, godly dating is more a matter of the characteristics that you develop and the search for more than the sweet moves you have, okay, or your swarthiness. And so we're going to be talking about 4 qualities and to develop and to look for in people, okay? So you need to develop these in yourself, and you need to look for these in people that you might pursue dating. Let's start, shall we? All right, we're going to be starting in Psalms chapter 1. Here we go, it's all going to be on the board. We're talking about some godly character, and this is her. And if you read the letter, I encourage you, if you want to, go home and read it. If you have a helper Bible, that's going to be really helpful because there's a lot of confusing things. But read it. It's a very interesting letter, and it's very intimate. So, verse 2. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. For your love is more delightful than wine. Pleasing is the fragrance of your perfumes. Your name is like a perfume poured out. No wonder the young women love you. Okay, this is what she's saying, okay? Now, the first part is not hard to decipher. Let him kiss me with the kisses of his mouth. That's basically what she's saying. She's not kissing him yet. And there's no kissing going on yet. This is talking about, all right, I like that guy. Let him kiss me in the mouth. But we get to a more important part. Perfume, this oil, okay? This is really important back then because guess what we don't do a lot of back then? Bathing. Bathing is not on the everyday agenda. You don't wake up in the morning like, I'm going to start my day with a bagel and bathing. No, you don't. So a lot of people stank. Okay, smelling good is a very important thing. It still is today, guys. But smelling good is an important thing. And so what she's saying, this is very valuable. And it's not really talking about him smelling good. It's saying your name is like perfume poured out. Basically, she's saying your reputation is amazing. Your reputation is awesome. Okay? This is what she was attracted by. His godly character. Because his character was so pervasive in her life that she couldn't help but be attracted to him. He is living life like he's supposed to. It's a very attractive. She's looking for godly character. He's, basically sweating it out. All right, he has this perfume of godly character. So what I want to think about is, what kind of people are you attracting with your character? Because some of us, we get to something, we're like, man, why? Guys usually don't say this, but girls may say, why are all these bummy guys always looking at? Why are these guys that just want me for my tail or whatever? Why are they always pursuing me? And I'll say this: your character generally attracts the things that are coming to you. AKA, whatever bait you're using, that's going to attract a certain type of people. Now, if I go out to, if I'm not unmarried, first off, if I'm unmarried, I'm single, I'm going out to the bars, and I'm like, I'm twerking it up out there. Don't get that visual image, I'm sorry. I'm dancing, I'm out there shaking my groove thing and all that, and then I have all these girls who are easy, really wanting to be with me. And I'm like, man, why are all these girls who are just passing out side hugs all the time, why are they, for everyone who's at G now, why are they wanting to be around me? It's because that's the bait I'm using. Right here, basically what it's saying is if you want godly, a godly spouse, you want God to attract godly people, guess what you got to be? Godly. You can't, it doesn't work that way. Andy Stanley says it like this. He says, marriage, not so much about finding the right person as it is becoming the right person. Become the person you are looking for is looking for. Let me say that in a different way. How many of you, if you get married, want to be married to a godly spouse, right? Is that some of you are like, okay, it's going to make life better. I'm going to go throw that out there. Okay, so you want to be married to a godly spouse. What do you think a godly spouse is looking for in someone to date? A godly person. So if we are wanting to go, you know what, I want a good relationship. I want a godly relationship. We got to be developing our God character, our godly character in our lives. You can't be ungodly and everything and then be like, why won't all these Christian people like me? Why won't they like my, why won't they swipe me right instead of left? I don't know. Did any of y'all actually use that, by the way? Do you know what I'm talking about? Tinder? Okay. Wow. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. All right. Cultural relevance there was not good. All right. I'm going to move on from that one. So, if you want the right person, if you want a person of godly character, be a person of godly character. That's what we're talking about here. Moving on. Second part is growing trust. She says, she's doing a lot of talking. She says, dark am I, yet lovely. Daughters of Jerusalem, dark like the tents of Kedar, like the tent curtains of Solomon. Do not stare at me because I am dark, because I am darkened by the sun. My mother's sons were angry with me, aka my brothers, were angry with me and made me take care of the vineyards. My own vineyard I had to neglect. What does she say? Okay, she's having a moment of vulnerability here. She says, don't look at me because I'm sunburnt. Now, nowadays we're like, hey, tan, good. Yeah, that's what we want. We get little boxes that make us tan. But back then, tan was not good. Tan meant that you were lower class. Tan meant that you had to work outside. Beauty was not considered tan. It was considered pasty white, or lighter. Not really pasty white, probably, but lighter. Okay? So some of you are like, yes, let's go back. Me too, right? All right, but she's being very vulnerable with him. All right? This is an opportunity. She's revealing her insecurities. Okay? This is a building trust exercise. Okay? And we're going to continue to look in just a second of how he's going to love her in those insecurities. So we're building trust, right? How many of you have ever been insecure about yourself in some physical form or fashion? Me, yes. And some of you, I'm glad you're confident. I'm glad you're confident because not all of us are. Whenever I was growing up, there was some things I knew were going to happen in my life. One of them was that I was going to be tall. Yeah. And around 5th grade, 6th grade, I was around like 5'5". I was a giant amongst my fellow peers. And I was like, yes, I'm going to be tall. Just like my grandfather, who's like 6'2" or something. I don't know, but he's tall. And I was like, I'm going to be that way. And then by 8th grade, I was 5'9". I'm like, oh yeah, this train's just going on up the track. I'm getting taller. By 10th grade, I was 5'9". By 11th grade, 5'9". By yesterday's checking of my measurement, I was still 5'9". And I was like, there's still times I'm like, man, I'm short. Now, if you're shorter than me, I'm sorry that this may be pertinent to you or not. But for me, it was a big deal. And there was some other things too with shortness. That I was short, I was wide, and hairy. Now, whenever you look at storybooks, that's usually not, and he rides in on a white horse, and he was short and wide. and hairy. Play the music, because romance. No, that's not generally what you would define as like going to be on the cover of GQ. And so that was something that was insecure about myself. And that Teresa, just to let you know a little bit about us, she encourages me with it. One thing she said, if you were any taller, then, we wouldn't have the perfect height for us to kiss. And that's like, oh, yeah, that is, right? But that helps me out. It's like, well, if you were a small, scrawny guy, you wouldn't be able to lift things. And I like it, being able to lift something. Yes, you do. Let me wear something to lift right now. I'm going to go pick up the back of the truck. But we have these insecurities, okay? And she lets him know. She kind of throws this out here. She's trying to build trust. Okay, so trust is something that we definitely need to be building, that we need to be working towards. Third thing, higher standards. She's talking a lot. She says, tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flocks and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends? Okay, we need a little explanation here. Okay, a veiled woman during that time is a prostitute. And so basically what she's saying is she's like, why should I give it up to you so easily? Why should I be like someone who's just chasing after you? She has these high standards. Now, another thing for us that we need to make sure that we develop in our lives is high standards for whom we're going to get involved with in relationships. High standards are incredibly important because the higher you're, not in the sense of like, I gotta, he's gotta be, 8 feet tall. Okay, not like that, but I'm talking about his moral character, these standards. When they're high, you open yourself up to less hurt, to less pain, okay? It's kind of one of those things like, if you want what others have, you can do what others do. Most of the world has, it's over a 50% divorce rate. Most of the world has, infidelity working in their marriages, that most of the world has, these horrible breakups and children out of wedlock, and most of the world has that. If you want what they have, then go ahead and do what the world does. But if you want a relationship that's godly, if you want a relationship that is going to last, that's going to be healthy, then you need to do what God wants you to do and not what everyone else is doing. All right? So you need to set your standards high. Now, one thing, and I know several of you, I've talked to several of you all about your standards. If your standards are compromised, you're gonna meet the level that you hang around with, right? I've said it so many times, it's probably boring to all but like 3 or 4 of you who are new. So yes. But when I'm around y'all, I take on your characteristics and your traits. Not like completely, but part of it. Like, there's John, as we all know, has a different phrase like every month. And I find myself at the end of the month saying the phrase.
Meryl.
No, not that phrase. John hasn't told me that one yet. Better not. All right. But wherever you're around is what you're going to fall to the standard of. I was hanging out with my friends when I was a kid. And they were like, we should climb up on top of the roof of this building. It's not too high. We have chairs. We'll do it. And I was like, that's a dumb idea. But since I was around them, I did it. And we got stuck up there until my dad showed up with a ladder because I was too scared to drop 10 feet. Don't judge. I was short. But wherever you put yourself around is the standard in which you're going to keep. So if you date someone with lower standards, if you date someone that's going to be like, hey, let's get physical before I know your last name, it's probably not a great thing for you. It's going to be something that it's going to bring you down. Have high standards. And I want to say this, if you've ever compromised those standards, that doesn't mean like you don't have right or liberty to go, okay, now I'm choosing to make my standards better. Okay? So these standards, that's what we need to keep high. She's saying right here, I'm not going to be easy. Why should I come over there like a prostitute and just, peddle myself for money? No. Okay? So the next thing is this. He's finally going to talk. Encouragement. Verse 9 says, I liken you, now use this one, Caleb, this will be good for you. I liken you, my darling, to a mare among Pharaoh's chariot horses. So what does he say? He said, I liken you to a horse. Now, I'm going to go ahead and tell you, without context, this is not a great pickup line. In fact, it's actually not a pickup line at all. So you know, during this time, the Egyptians believed, like the chariot horses that they're talking about here, they believed they were pristine, they were white, they were gorgeous horses, and they were believed to even be, like, even possibly deity. Like, they were little gods that were here on earth, and that's what the Egyptians believed. They were beyond value. So what is he saying to her? He's actually saying, hey, you know what? You told me earlier with your insecurity that you are worried about your skin, you're worried about being dark. You are like a beautiful white horse to me. You are like someone who is beyond value. So he's encouraging her. He's not lying to her. I want to be clear. Because some of us go like, yeah, so just tell her great things or tell him great things. Oh yeah, you look great. That beard's not rough at all. Yeah, you don't smell bad. Don't lie. But be honest and be encouraging. And that's what he's doing. So he's encouraging her there. And then we continue on. Okay, so then he says in verse 15, how beautiful you are. I picture him just saying it like this. How beautiful you are, my darling. Oh, how beautiful. Your eyes are like doves. How handsome you are, which is okay back then. My beloved. Okay, so what is he doing? He's lifting her up. He's encouraging her. Now we're going to see in just a second what he's actually doing, but it's where we got good character, we got trust building, and it's going to last. It's going to be better because he's going through these steps. Okay, and then just guys, FYI, if you learn to encourage, and I'm not just looking. I looked at you for a long time. No, I didn't mean to. It just happened. Guys, all guys, if you learn to encourage, if you learn to lift them up, if you learn to do things like this, you're going to look a lot better to ladies. I'm just saying. Ladies, is that true? If a guy's nice to you and he speaks well and he listens, yeah? Listen? Okay, good. I got a couple of head nods and a couple of like, I don't care. All right. So let's see the result, okay? So we have this, the result, she's feeling special. Next verse says, she's talking, says, I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. And he says, like a lily among thorns is my darling, the young women, among the young women. I read that wrong. So, basically, she's saying she's a rose. She's singular. She's the most important woman on earth. That's what he's saying. Okay? And then, he's adding that little bit in there, that you are a lily among thorns. No one else compares to you. So, we're building this trust. First chapter, we're insecure. Second chapter, feeling special. He adores her, he cherishes her, he treasures her. She's valued. Now, we're looking at this like this is not just guy-to-girl thing, okay? Girls, you need to be cherishing guys and valuing them too. It's just written in that manner. Does that make sense? So I'm not just, like, guys, come on, step up your game. But everyone, this is what we're talking about. So next thing, next verse says this. It says, like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and the fruit is sweet to my taste. All right, so let's talk about it. Let's talk about that. All right, first off, she feels protected. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest, she feels protected. She feels guarded. She feels safe with him. Okay, why? Because we built trust. Why? Because she knows he has godly character. All right? Why? Because he has high standards. We have all this set in place so she feels protected. Okay? And then his fruit is sweet to her taste. You can look at this many ways. I'm going to look at it this way. She really enjoys his company. All right? She does. Now, nothing physical has happened yet. Okay? His presence. His very presence is sweet to her taste. It is enjoyable. It is something that makes her happy. How many of you have ever been around someone that just makes you happy to be around them, dating or not, right? There's someone out there, you've experienced that. So, oh, you make me happy. Oh, that's so sweet. Whether you've dated or not, we've all experienced that. There's someone that you're around that just makes you feel better. And this is what we're talking about, this characteristic. If you're a round person, and some people do that, if you're dating someone that consistently makes you feel unprotected, consistently makes you feel bad, or you don't enjoy their company, why are you there? That fruit is rotten. Don't be eating that fruit, okay? And so I think it's just important because some of us we find ourselves in a spot like this because we go, you know what? There's not a lot of men calling me a white horse around here, and so or there's not a lot of ladies who are enjoying my shade or whatever, and so I'm just going to pick up somebody. I'm just going to be a part of somebody, and then I can't get out of this because they're all I got, or if they leave me, if I leave them, then what is it? No. Relationships are not about just because you're relationships. They need to be making you a better person. They need to be developing your godly character. They need to be pushing you to having a higher standard. If they're not these things, get out. Get out. Run away from that because you're going to be degrading yourself. You're going to be making your life worse. Okay, so she's in this spot. It's about to get really fun because we're about to get physical here, right? All right. So physical. Anyway, all right. Great. Olivia Newton-John song. All right. Oh, it's Olivia Newton-John, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm looking at certain people. All right. So next verse. Here we go. Then we move on. So we've had all this stuff. Strengthen me with raisins. Refresh me with apples. She likes fruit. For I am faint with love. His arm is under my head. Excuse me, left arm. Thank you. His left arm is under my head. And his right arm embraces me. All right. So I want you to now next week. I'm just going to throw it out there. We're going to be talking about sex next week. All right. So did you say amen? I thought you said amen. Amen. Yes, they are married by the time we start talking about the intimate times. Okay. They are not married yet, though. And all right. So, all right. Man, next week's going to be fun. All right. So, no, but let's talk about this. So, strengthen me with raisins. Okay, raisins during this time were thought to be an aphrodisiac. Okay? So if you don't know what that is, you can look that up later. Okay? An aphrodisiac. They're basically to make you love them more. All right? So there's like, give me some raisins, give me some apples because it keeps the doctor away, I guess. And then they have the left arm and the right arm. Now, I want you to notice, in all this talking, there's been no physical intimacy. There's been no physical touch. She talked about his lips and kissed me with the lips of his mouth. Wow. She talked about that, but there hasn't been any yet. All right? They've had this time. They've had this courtship. They've had this thing. And it's only at this point that he even gives her a hug. Now, I say this to say, whenever you're dating, whenever you're pursuing this, you start off, you pursue the godly character, you make sure to have high standards, you build trust. The last thing should be the physical intimacy. And in this case, hugs. Or I kind of picture this like the ending of a Disney movie, like the older ones, like the circle coming down, and like, when you wish upon, and they're like, oh, and it like closes out, and they're like a little kiss on the cheek. That's what I'm imagining right now. Okay? But what we're talking about is that the physical intimacy is held off towards the end. All right? And this is not physical intimacy, this is not sex, this is just them embracing each other. Now, whenever we're looking at our relationships, and this is part of having the high standard and all that, if you start a relationship and a courtship and all these things, if you start this with someone and they decide to skip steps 2, 3, maybe 1, and they go to 4, then you probably need to get out of that relationship. You cannot go with the physical first. You can't. Now, if you're dating, I expect you'll probably hold hands at least. And I had a friend of mine, her first kiss was on her wedding day. Awesome and great. My first kiss was not on my wedding day. All right? And that was okay with me. I was... But that sounds bad. But I just want you to know I was okay with kissing. So, but my point is that you work yourself towards that godly characters first, building trust, high standards, and you're going through all these steps first, and then you have the physical intimacy. Now the issue is that a lot of us are like, we want to rush through 1, 2, 3 and get to 4. But what happens is, more than likely, you'll probably date more than one person. More than likely. Sorry for any first-time daters, it's okay. But you may not, my brother didn't, but a lot of times it happens, and what happens is every step you take physically with someone, you feel with the next person that you have to take a step further because otherwise they're not important. They're not as important as your ex because, you kiss them on the hand. So, I want to kiss them on both their hands. And, you move forward in that sense. And so the physical intimacy, if the relationship can't last without that, then you probably need to back away from the relationship. It's a safety issue. It's a high standards issue because you're going to continue to compromise yourself more and more and more. Every step you take closer to sex, guess what? Is closer to sex. There's a shorter space in between that. And so this is what we're talking about here, is that you are putting up these things. These are your checklists. You know what? And at the very end, I'll get a nice hug. Okay? Now, next week, we're going to talk about within marriage, and we're going to go beyond hugs. But these are the things that, if you're dating or not, even if you don't date for 15, 20 years, you can be working on your character. You can be working on your trust. You can be working on your high standards. Because more than likely, most of you are going to end up dating. Most of you are going to end up getting married. And so you need to set these parameters early. And I want to say this. We're going to get more into this next week when we talk about purity, when we talk about restoration. But if you're at a point where you've already gone past step 4, 5, 8, 12, and 38, if you've already done that, that doesn't mean that you can't come back to step 1 and be like, okay, I'm going to work on my godly character. I'm going to work on my standards and all that. That doesn't mean you're not excluded by any means. The grace of God is amazing, wonderful, and boundless. And it's not like you're excluded from anything. So I want that to be known. We're going to talk more about that next week. But these steps are what we need to make sure that we are growing in the right way. Becoming the person that you want to marry wants to marry. All right? Will you bow your heads to me? Father God, you are awesome and amazing. And I thank you. I thank you for the life you've given me. I thank you for my wife. I thank you for my family. And I thank you for every youth in here. God, I pray that you give us wisdom in how we pursue dating. God, I pray that you help us to build our godly character, that you help us to set a high standard and keep it, that you help us to be trustworthy people, and that, God, that you guide our steps. God, I pray that for all of us have made mistakes, all of us have compromised boundaries in some shape, form, or fashion, God. I thank you for your forgiveness for that. I thank you for the cleansing of any judgment from that through the death and resurrection of your Son. And God, I pray that we all pursue these things utmost. I pray for wisdom and strength and endurance for each one of these youth as they go out and face a world that says it's okay for you just to casually date. It's okay for you to go beyond boundaries. It's okay. Do what you want. You're young. God, I pray that you help us to live lives that are wise and that lead towards godly marriages or leads towards godly living. We love you with all that we got. In your name, Lord Jesus, I pray. Amen.